Alright, so again, this is ITS 101, Computer Programming 1. Today's lesson we'll be talking about the programming process, and my name is Julius, your instructor. Please be sure to try to listen attentively. Right after this class, there will be learning assessment and assignment that I'll be posting. So if you have any questions or clarifications, please go ahead and share it with the class after this class. Or you can also send in your question to our Facebook chat group, or you can also send your questions here. There is in call messages in Google Meet. All right, so without any further ado, let's get started. If you can remember, in our past lesson, we've talked about the introduction to computer programming, and particularly we've talked about what is computer programming, and we talked about the programming languages, types of computer programs, uses of computer programs, and so on and so forth. And yesterday, this part, we're already done with this part, diba? Before we got off due to the brownout. So, we've already done with our review. Nakaman ba tag review gapon?
Wala.
Parang wala.
Wala, sir.
Wala. Okay,
Wala, sir.
okay, abinaw na comment tag review, right?
Tiny chat.
Okay, so if that's the case, then let's get started then. Can you provide me with, or can anybody provide us or share to us what are the types of computer programs or the categories of computer programs? Anyone? Anyone would like to share?
Plus, sir.
Kinsa kinsa
House
to?
system po. Application.
Kinsa. Go ahead. Badoy, sige, go ahead, Badoy.
Answer. Applications, programs, and system programs.
Okay, all right,
Types
and
of programming.
okay, that's right. Okay, so what are application programs? Anyone?
Cancer. Cancer. Para ng Google Classroom,
Um,
Microsoft.
what? Okay, that is an example of application program. But what is the definition? What do you mean by application program? Anybody? Make sure when you answer, guys. For example, yesterday last week we discussed the actual definition. But every time that I'll be asking you a question, and if it's gonna be a definition, it has to be something that you will come up yourself. Okay? Can I inyuhang a definition? All right. So can anybody share what are or what's the definition or explain to us what are application software or application program?
Answer. Now, computer program is collection of instructions that can be executed by a computer to perform a specific task.
That's good. So basically, application programs, from the term suggests application, it is something that users like us uses for us to execute or to perform the task that we wanted to do. Diba? For example, if I wanted to message or I want to call a friend, or let's say a video call a friend which is outside the country. Diba? So what applications am I going to use? There are lots, right? We can either call them using Facebook. So if you okay, Nana,
Skype, sir.
WhatsApp, Skype, whatever. So
Messenger, sir.
basically, our main goal or our task, the task that we wanted to do is to call our friend, and we use an application program to do so, right? So that is application program. Basically, any programs or software that we are using to perform the task for us. And then, how about system software? Can anybody explain to us what is system software or system program?
Answer. System software is software designed to provide a platform of other software.
Okay, all right. Okay, that's good. How about anybody? Anyone? Anyone else?
Kuan sir, system program are programs that keep the hardware and software running on a computer.
That's right. Okay. So basically, system programs. These are the programs that kitang mga user, we're not necessarily going to use it, diba? As much as an application software or application program. Basically, system programs are just the programs, okay, the programs that is being used by our devices to keep them running or to make them work. Okay, for example, right now, currently you can see me. It's because my camera is turned on or my camera is working. The camera of my laptop, diba? So the reason why it's working, it's because the reason why it's working in my laptop, it's because a certain driver for that particular camera installed in my laptop. If I'm going to remove that driver or that software from my laptop, then my camera will not work. Okay. If for, another example, if you kuan mupalit mo og any other external devices for your laptop or for your computer. So for example, um, graphic tablet. I am cur I cur na ako graphic tablet umalabot. Nagkulat-ulat pa ko panabot. Anyway, pag maabot na to siya, then I'm going to install a driver for that particular device so that I can use it for my computer. So, graphic tablet, baka itong gamiton ganis mga graphic artist. Pwede ka mag-drawing sa mga computer. Alright? So, those are just example of system software. Okay, so how about... Okay, alright. So, I guess that's it for the past lesson. So, we're just going to review our assessment. This is to check whether or not we are capable or we are ready for our next lesson. Okay, makita ninyo ang Google form here.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Sir.
Let's try to answer
Yes,
the first question. What is or it is a sequence of instruction that guides the computer to perform the task you want it to do and deliver the expected outcome.
Computer program,
Computer
sir.
program.
Computer program.
Computer program. Okay. So how about a hold on. Okay. True or false? A computer program can be compared to an instruction given to a person to perform a certain task.
True.
True, sir.
Okay. All right.
True, sir.
So
True, sir.
just like on our example, diba, last time, how are you going to tell or how are you going to instruct a person if wala siya deres Bais and wala siya katultol sa NORSU Bais? So there is a step-by-step procedure that you have to do, that you have to give them. That way, matultulan nila ang NORSU Bais even though they are not from NORSU Bais, right? So a computer program is just the same. It's basically our way of talking to or giving instruction to our computer so that we can perform the task that we want it to do. Okay, and then next is a blank is a set of rules that guides the computer what operations to execute.
Application program, sir.
Programming language.
Okay,
Application.
who says application program?
Programming language, sir.
Sir, application program.
Okay, and who says programming language? Okay, the answer is programming language, right? So when we say a blank, it is a set of rules that guides the computer what operations to execute. So just like human, diba? For example, ever since we are in elementary, we've been studying English because it is supposed to be our secondary language here in the Philippines, right? So there are a set of rules that allows us to be better in communicating English language. Unsay tawag ana? Katong set of rules nga atong gamiton sa language nga English para tarong ang atong pagstorya. Unsay term ana ang gigam? Unsay term ana? Set of rules to speak better English.
Sentence.
It's grammar.
Grammar.
Grammar, okay? So, grammar can be compared to kani, set of rules that guides the computer what operations to execute, and that is called in programming language, it is called syntax. Anyway, we'll talk more about it in our future lesson. But the answer is programming language. Next, web browsers like Google Chrome and Mozilla Firefox are example of which type of program?
Application
Program, sir.
Application program. Okay. And then, to which application of computer programs do computer games belong?
Entertainment software, sir.
Entertainment software, sir.
Alright, so obviously it is used for entertainment, di ba? Kanang computer games. And not just computer games, we have maybe browsers, di ba? Because we use it to entertain ourselves. Music and video streaming applications, shopping applications, and many more. So here, do a research. Which of the following application belong to media development software. Select all that apply. Asas go running.
Google Chrome.
My
Adobe Photoshop.
Adobe
Adobe
After Effects, sir.
Yeah, let me call one.
That's
See,
at Facebook.
sige, go ahead, Banjao. Sige, go ahead. Which of the following belong to media development software?
Answer, Adobe Photoshop, Microsoft Word, Adobe After Effects,
Okay,
o
very good.
Google Chrome.
Hmm. Ano na appeal mo Google Chrome?
Ay, 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 wala, di, wala.
Okay, nga I want to know basig na amoy reason nga nag-appeal ninyo ang Google Chrome.
Wala na ako, gapil ako.
Ah, wala de. Okay. All right, so what do you mean by media development software? So basically these are the software that allows us to create, print and digital media, 'di ba? Develop or produce print and digital media. So for example, if you wanted to create graphics design, so I can either use Adobe Photoshop. If I wanted to create visual effects, so I can use Adobe After Effects. And then, ganahan ko mo print og akong application letter for a job, then I can use the Microsoft Word. So Facebook and Google Chrome, I'm not really sure if there are any way that we can produce graphics or any and print and electronic media out of these two. I'm not really sure, but for the answer of these would be Adobe Photoshop, Microsoft Word, Adobe After Effects. So, okay, again, media development software are the software or the programs that will allow us to produce print and electronic media. And lastly, do a research. Which of the following application belong to entertainment software? Anyone?
Netflix and Call of
Call of
Duty,
Duty,
Okay,
sir.
sir.
go ahead,
And
Boca Negra. Let's listen.
Duty,
Pinagsalanta.
sir.
Pinagsalanta. Okay, go ahead, Boca Negra.
Call of Duty Mobile and Netflix,
Okay, all right.
sir.
Napabailain? Ani?
wala na, sir.
Anyone? Okay.
Wala
All
na,
right.
sir.
So as much
Wala
as
na,
we
sir.
want it, as much as bisag nalingaw ba ta sa atong klase or not, but Google Classroom is not necessary for entertainment. It is for katong unsa tong type of kan gini asa siya nabilong application of software.
Application.
Station, sir.
Di asa siya nabilong gani katong uses of application software.
Kuan, sir.
Kanang Google Classroom. Okay, let me open up my presentation para makabalo po. Wa ko memorize.
Sa application program, guro.
Agana nyo, di ba naman to different uses of application programs? Na ay mga different uses. So, which of the uses kaning Google Classroom belong to?
Sir.
Maybe development software.
Hmm? Go ahead.
Enterprises develop.
Okay, let me open up the kuan para makinomdom ta.
Sige, tayo mong question, sir.
Katong kanang Google Classroom, asa na siya nabilong when it comes to the uses of programs? Di ba na uses of computer programs?
I think we have development software, sir, for producing print and electronic media for educational and digital settings.
Okay, let's check here, huh? We're not necessarily producing print media man po sa Google Classroom, di ba? Let's check. Media enterprise application. Hold on. Anong kaduha jud? Usa lang. Okay, yes, I guess it would be in their enterprise. No. All right, it's in
Entertainment, sir.
media development software. It's because it is for media and educational industrial settings man po de. But it's okay. For our answer would be the answer is for entertainment software is Call of Duty Mobile and Netflix. So basically, Google Classroom belong to media. Sa to?
Media development
Okay,
software.
media development software.
Man software, sir.
All right, so let's check if unsa atong okay. It says here that the average is 7.45 out of 10 points. So that means most of you passed, and that means we are ready for our next topic. Okay, so today we'll be talking about the programming process. So basically, the programming process um, is about the process in which a program will be developed from the moment that it will be gone, the moment that the planning started up until that such time that it will be released to the public. So for example, what are the different applications that we are using? Facebook, diba? Before it was released, there's been certain processes that 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 was implemented before Facebook was released to the public. Okay, so that's gonna be our discussion for this evening or for this afternoon. However, we're not going to focus a lot on the actual processes, okay? Because soon you will be having this kuan. You will have a specific course intended only for development processes of development process of either software or web development. So you'll have an actual lesson soon as you go along with your course. But right now we're going to focus to one of the phases or one of the stages in the programming process, and we'll talk more about it in just a few moments. But when we say programming process, it is about here in the PDLC or Program Development Lifecycle. That is the programming process that we're talking about. There are 5 phases in program development. So when we say program development lifecycle, it is a methodological way of developing a program. Okay, so why is it that we have to follow certain steps to release or to develop a program? Ano mang dili majutang sir mag i-code dragon nato na dito. Why is it that we have to follow? Why do you think we have to follow some certain steps or procedure so that we in developing a program? Anyone?
Para dili ma-error, sir.
Pwede masayap, sir.
Part of the development is error. Okay, and yes, that's correct. To make sure that there will be no error or there will be less error, diba? But error is always part of the development. The main reason why we need to follow a certain process or a certain knowledge about the development process, it's because we want to make sure that the program that we are going to develop is high quality. That means the program is capable of performing the task that it is supposed to do. It will allow the users to automate the task that they want to do, di ba? One of the main purpose why we create program is to automate certain activities that is being done manually. For example, back then, NORSU Bais katong wala pa yung enrollment system. You haven't experienced it yet. It's because online naman ang inyong enrollment. But before, during the face-to-face classes, we have an enrollment system here. But many decades ago, wala pa ang enrollment system. Everything's done manually. So they said nga the enrollment process of NORSU will take days, di ba, for them to be able to be enrolled. It's because all the processes are being done manually. Even pagkuha sa grado manual, pag-compute sa grado manual, imagine there are thousands of students who are going to enroll. Okay, so that's why the previous administration of NORSU system implemented the Negros Oriental State University enrollment system, and it actually helps with the speed of the enrollment process. So it helped with the problem, di ba? Problem because it's ang problema atong panahon na kay dugay kay mo ba ng enrollment. But because of the enrollment system, everything has been done much faster than before. Okay? Another problem. Before kanang mga sa mga tindahan, 'di ba? Usually, and maybe some of you already know any stores that doesn't have any kana bang walay mga POS system like point of sale system. Kanang wala ba gani katong beep ana wala sila scanner. Diba? Before they're going to compute all the items bought by a customer manually, and one of the problems is that it may take a little while for them to attend to one customer, diba? So that was a problem. And because of the programming, because of the computer program, they were able to develop a software that will allow them for faster transactions, diba? So basically, it solved the problem. So our goal, the main goal of any programmer na mugama og program is to solve any problem in our society. Okay? So the reason why we have this programming process, we need to have a stable knowledge about the programming process. It's because we want to make sure that the program that we are going to develop is capable of doing the task that it's supposed to, and we can make sure that it will really solve the problem nga gitry nato og solve, di ba? And this is to, and kato yung gingon gay na nga pawalay error. Yes, it can also help with the program development lifecycle. Will also help us determining what would be the possible problems. And that way, we can foresee what is going to be the proper solution and possible solutions. And basically, let's just think about programming process is the preparation, a preparation on how we are going to make sure that the program that we're going to develop will be successful. So again, in program development lifecycle, there are 5 stages. We have defining the problem, planning the solution, coding the program, testing the program, documenting the program. So these 5 stages are very broad siya kayo, and we cannot just explain it in just one class. However, so therefore, we're just going to um, learn an overview of each stages. So we're just going to have an overview, ba, murag general idea on what is defining the problem, what is planning the solution, coding, testing, documenting, because it will be discussed to you once you already go through your on your later years as a BS Information Technology or BS ComSci here in NORSU Bais. So again, ato raning magkwartag overview or general idea of these stages, but we are going to focus to one stage, which is planning the solution. So this is going to be our focus, the planning the solution. So let's start with the defining the problem. Defining the problem means identifying and analyzing the situation that leads to the problem. This is very important in finding a solution before the program is written. Data is collected as well as program requirements from the users to identify the problem that the program expected to resolve. Okay, so this is the part where we are going to understand unsa day problema. Unsa day problema nganong kinahanglan man natong gaman og computer program. Okay, so let's think of any scenario that our society right now is currently experiencing. Okay, so for example, let me think. Um, okay,
Wait,
sorry, go ahead, Aros.
anong walay trabaho, sir?
Ay,
Ano yung problema nila?
ano, what we're trying to think about is problem that we can fix using computer programs ba?
Sorry,
Okay.
sir. Okay,
It's okay. All right. Going back to my example before. Okay, katong example na gayna. So, let's just say one usa ka tindahan diri sa Bais before all of their customers will be handled manually, di ba? For example, na nasa cashier ang customer, daghan kay siyang gipalit, and for them to pay the items that they bought, they have to check it manually. They have to kuan ganang compute each item individually inana, and then once the customers already paid those, then they're going to manually deduct those items nga ilang napalit from the stocks, di ba? And it will take a lot of time. So that was the problem. It will take a lot of time and it will take a lot of effort for them to compute the items that the customers bought, and um kana ba ganing maintaining or monitoring the stocks remaining, di ba? So it
That's Lucky 99, sir.
inana sila
Manual.
manual. Okay, so very good. So
Oh,
okay, so for example, the Lucky 99, di ba? So right now they are currently doing their job manually, so they're doing the computation, the kanang sa cashiering nila manual, and then after that maybe they're going to do the um kana ba mag-check og stock sa term ana, mag-check og stock nila manually pod. Okay, we're supposed, so that is the problem.
inventory.
Yes, is to
Inventory, sir.
inventory karon, very good. Inventory, okay, so inventory mo manual, so it will take a lot of time, diba? So that is a problem. Okay, and So in the defining the problem, we're going to analyze what exactly causes the problem and why is it that it is necessary for us to create a program. Kinahanglan ba jud nga dapat mo gama tag program to fix that problem? And what will happen if naanay computer program? What will happen? Is it going to help the organization? Something like that. Okay? So usually, to identify the problem, system analysts, that's us, we are supposed to be system analysts, typically look at these concerns. So these are the concerns that the system analysts like us will have to go through to identify what exactly is the problem. First is what is the problem. So let's talk about katong Lucky 99. So the problem is they are doing everything like the cashiering and at the point of sale and the inventory manually. So the problem it causes it's that it will take a lot of time, it will take a lot of effort just to do the job. So that's a problem. So how do people solve the problem currently? So in Lucky 99 right now, they are doing it manually. To solve the problem, para mapadali nila ilang trabaho, they have to para paspasan na nila ang trabaho, di ba? And then what is needed for the solution process? So Lucky 99 needs a certain application or computer program that will allow them to compute the customer's um, items that they are buying, as well as automatically checking the inventory. So every time nga mo palit ang customer, automatic na po siyang mag-deduct sa stocks sa inventory, di ba? In that way, one usara ka transaction but multiple jobs na ang ilang gitrabaho to compute the point of sale and to monitor the inventory, right? And then what is expected output of the solution? So they expect na once there is already a program, they are expecting that the program will make things easier and faster for the Lucky 99 staff. Diba? And if na sila nga program, mapaspasan nila ilang trabaho, mas daghan silang customer yung mga ma-attend, and mas dako ang ilahang progress when it comes to working hours. Inana, mas dako ang ilahang agi sa tibok adlaw. And is a software solution a more effective way to solve the problem? So this time, we're going to compare if ever na anay software, is it going to be better for the organization or okay lang na magpadayon sila sa ilahang manual na trabaho? Okay, so yun yung timbang-timbangon. So we're going to balance it out whether or not if we're going to implement a program, it will really help the organization or the business compared to what they're currently doing. All right. So this is how you're going to define the problem. So that's just it. We're just going to check what is the problem, how do people solve the problem, what is needed for a solution process, and what is the expected output of solution, and is a software solution a more effective way to solve a problem. Okay. So that is defining a problem. So for a question.
No,
Answer.
sir.
Okay. All right. Next is we have planning the solution. This phase is also called designing the program. Program design starts by focusing on the main goal that the program is trying to achieve and then breaking the program into manageable components, each of which contributes to this goal. It is setting a guide for what the program will do and how it will do it. Okay, so once you've already defined the problem, you've already gathered enough information that will help you understand what exactly is the problem and how you're going to uh, solve it, di ba? Since kabalo na kas problema, kay hinay kayo ang trabaho sa Lucky 99 because everything's done manually. So you already know how to solve it, di ba? You've decided that you have to create a program that will automate the cashiering system and the inventory system, di ba? So in the planning of the solution, this is where you're going to design the program. You're going to prepare, you're going to plan how are you unsaon nimo mapagana ang imong program. Kumbaga, what would be the step-by-step procedure that the program will do to solve the problem? Nagets lang? So murabag, nakabalo na ka sa problema, kabalo na ka unsaon imong pag-solve. This time in the planning phase, this is the time that you're going to plan unsaon nimo nga mabuhat nimo ang imong solution. Right? You're going to plan how are you going to fix the problem. Since you already have a solution, how are you going to execute your solution? Okay, so most of the time in the program designing phase or stage, it involves using the following planning tools. So these tools, flowchart and algorithm, will help programmers and system analysts to better understand how the program is going to work. Okay? So basically, maglatag ka og mga step-by-step procedure on how your program will execute the solution. Unsaon niya pagtrabaho ba? Unsa iyang functionalities to make sure that it will be able to solve the kuan. It will provide the solution that you are supposed to give to the problem. Okay? So we have flowcharts and algorithm. Have you heard of flowcharts or algorithm before? Nakadog naman na?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Asa man?
Sir.
Asa man usually?
Sa ano,
Klase
sir?
ni before.
Sa eskwelahan.
Sa eskwelahan.
Sa math nga subject.
Okay.
Kadalasan.
All right. So that's good. So let's start with flowchart. A flowchart is a step-by-step solution to a problem that uses symbols as representation of the processes. It consists of arrows representing the flow of the process and boxes and symbols representing the action in each process. So basically, it is flowchart is like creating an instruction, diba? Just like same inyong assignment last week. But this time, you are going to create the instruction with symbols. All right, so let's have a look. So this is an example of a flowchart. So for example, we this is a flowchart for a program that calculate the sum of two numbers. So mo calculate siya og sum of two numbers. So that means, for example, 1 plus 1, 2 plus 2. Okay, so basically this is a program that will calculate the sum of two numbers. So this is an example of a flowchart. So as you can see, there are different symbols, and each symbol have its own meaning depending on its functionality or purpose. And then let's check. So here are the instructions. So this program is supposed to calculate the sum of two numbers. The first step kanang nabuhaton sa program is to enter the first number. Diba? So we have start, meaning we opened the application, or we started the application. And then the next step is to enter the first number. Diba? For us to calculate the numbers, we have to enter it in our program, diba? So the first thing is you're going to let the computer enter the first number, and let's call it variable num1, because we don't know what would what would the user enter. They could enter any numbers, diba? So since since the number is unknown, we are going to use variable. So enter the first number, let's call it num1, and then once the user enter the first number, then we will let them enter the second number, and then let's call it num2, because again we don't know what would be the numbers that they're going to enter, so we will call it variable num2. Okay, so once both the two numbers already entered, then we are going to perform the calculation. So calculate sum as num1 plus num2. That means whatever it is that ang number nga gi-enter sa num1 will be added to whatever number it entered as num2, and that will be the sum. Okay, so once the program has calculated num1 plus num2, the next step is to display the answer to the screen, and then end din dapat dili start. Okay, so basically that is the step-by-step procedure on how you can create a simple calculator, diba? So again, we let the user enter the first number, the second number, and once the two numbers are entered already in the program will calculate it as num1 plus num2, and then the program will display the answer and then end. All right, so it's step-by-step procedure. However, it is being represented with a symbol. All right, so the flowchart is not just for programming. Flowchart can also be used for any other activities. Okay, so for example, all right, so here, okay, so program magyapon siya. So this program will find the profit or loss by comparing the income and cost. So basically, this program will determine whether or not nakaginansya ba ka or nalugi ba ka by comparing the income and the cost. Okay, so for example, naa kay imong allowance sa usa ka adlaw 100 pesos gihatag sa mama nimo. And then sa Jollibee nato kun sulod kang Jollibee. Yang presyo sa Jollibee butang nato 120. Alright? Nakaginansya ba ka o nalugi ka?
Lugi, sir.
Okay.
Nalugi,
Nalugi
sir.
Nalugi,
ka,
sir.
di ba? So basically this program will determine whether or not nalugi ba ka or nakaganansya ba ka. And to do so, you just have to compare, di ba? I-compare lang nimo if asa mas dako ang cost or ang imong income. Di ba? So, here it is. Let's start. Okay. So first is we're going to let the computer enter the first number again. Sorry, the income. Kung pila iyahang kwarta. So butan nato again, butan to 100. All right? And then enter the cost. The cost is, let's say, 120. All right? So we are going to compare whether or not the income is greater than the cost. So here, it will say, is income greater than cost? Again, our example gaina is ang income is 100 and cost is 120. So is it true? The income greater than cost?
No, sir.
No, right?
No,
No,
sir.
sir.
No, sir. No, sir.
No, sir.
Okay, so actually kulang niya ako ang my apologies. Let me add that. No. And then yes here. All right. Okay. So basically in this part there is a split of flow because it will depend now whether or not a condition is true or false, diba? The condition here, it says here that the income is greater than cost. Since the income is 100 and the cost is 120, so therefore it's no, diba? So if it's no, the flow will continue here, calculate loss as cost minus income, and then display the loss, and then end. All right. However, for example, ang income is 500 and the cost is 400. So there is already a profit, right? Kay mas dako man ang income. So it will move into a different kuan. It will go to another flow, di ba? Dili na siya pareha ang flow niya because the flow will depend now whether or not this statement is true. Now, if mas dako ang income kaysa cost, then it will flow here that says calculate profit as income minus cost. And then, of course, once it's calculated it will display the income and then end. All right. So far, what have you noticed if we're going to compare these two flowcharts, this and this? Ano sa inyo na-notice?
Murag sayon-sayon ang flowchart, sir.
Diba? These are all flowchart. Mga flowchart na siya. But here, if you can see, the flow is continuous, diba? It's because wala decision making na nahitabo ba?
Complicated ang usa, sir.
All right. This time, yeah, it's complicated. But what makes it complicated, a little bit complicated, is because there is a split of the flow. Na ay split ba? Na ay nagbulag na flow depending on the decision making. Decision making here, or in other words, naabay kuan ba if this particular statement is true or false. Okay? So let's have another example. This. I'm pretty sure makarelate mo ana, it's because this is a process on how to enroll in NORSU Bais. So I'm not sure if this is the same katong pag-enroll ninyo sa Bais, NORSU Bais, nag-fill out ba mo o Google form?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes,
So I guess everybody will be able to relate, and please let me know if this is the same process that you did. But anyway, again, flowchart are not just for programming. It can actually be used to any other activity, diba? Because again, this is kuan man, giving instruction man. So for example, how are you going to enroll in NORSU Bais using Google Form, diba? So these are the processes. So we have the first step is to go to norsu.edu.ph. That's the website. And then next, select online enrollment out of those links ngayon yung makita. And then select Bais Campus 1 and 2. And then select new students. And the next is you're going to input your personal information. That includes the LRN, first name, middle name, last name, so on and so forth. And after that, you're going to input your contact information. That includes contact number, email address, Facebook link, home address, etc. And then next is you're going to be asked whether or not you're going to prefer online learning or modular learning. Now, if you selected modular learning, it will give you the submit button right away. However, if you selected online, it will route you to another page that will allow you to input whether or not that will allow you to input your internet connectivity, your gadget capability, gadget or ownership, online learning, and mode of education. Okay, so basically it's still the same thing. It uses flowchart. Using this flowchart, you'll be able to um, you'll be able to kana ma-complete nimo ang task. It's because there is a flowchart, right? So, unsay nabantayan na po nito? Unsay na po nabantayan nato compared this and this one? So same thing, nagyapon tayo split of decision here, right? So,
Yes, sir.
Yes,
okay,
sir.
so
Yes, sir.
you'll be asked whether or not preferred mode of
Yes, sir.
education is modular, you have a different process. But if you're using online, you have a different process. So, nagets lang ninyo so far ang flowchart?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Okay.
Yes, sir.
sir.
As for the symbols, na siya meaning, when do we use this type of symbol? And ano ba? So when do we use rectangle? When do we use parallelogram? So on and so forth. And we're going to discuss it right here. Okay, so the following are some of the symbols used in preparing flowcharts. So we have symbol. So we have ellipsis. That means terminal, start, meaning start or end of the process. Okay, so it indicates the beginning and end of the program or process. So let's check here. Asa man ang ellipsis na, asa man terminal na to ani?
One,
Kanang
sir.
One, sir.
Google
Kanang
Form.
Correct.
Google Form
So
enrollment.
notice that we always start with a terminal. We start yung tag terminal, which is an ellipsis. So you can write here whatever it is the purpose of your flowchart. So for example, since this flowchart is about enrollment using Google Form, then you can write the the purpose of the entire flowchart in the first terminal, and then you're going to end it with the same symbol, ellipsis, and then you can just say end. All right. Then next is we have process, which is a rectangle. Rectangle meaning it's a process, instructions that is to be carried out by the program. Okay, so basically, if it will give you an instruction, and not just any instruction, but instruction that will, from the term suggest process, diba? If there is an activity needs to be done, then we are going to use rectangle or process. So going back here, so since it is instructing us to go to norsu.edu.ph, it is instructing us to go to select online enrollment. That's why we selected rectangle. So basically, if ang process or if ang step is about giving instruction to to instruction to be carried out by the process or by the system or by the program, then we will use rectangle. Next is we have parallelogram. Parallelogram means input and output. It indicates the process of input and output of data. So basically, if we're going to if we're going to provide information to the system as part of the process, then we're going to use parallelogram. So here, we use parallelogram for the input personal info because again, we are trying to input our data, our personal information. So if we're going to add any information or data to the process, we are going to use parallelogram. Okay, same thing with the contact information, and then same thing right here. And then we have diamond, that is for decision, used to split the flowchart sequence into multiple paths representing selection or repetition. So just like this, diba? So there is a decision making that needs to be done. So whether or not the flow will depending on the selection. So if you selected online, then naay flow, lahi ang yang flow. If selected modular, lahi ang yang flow. Same here. If is the decision here is that is income greater than cost? If it's yes, the flow will follow here. If it's no, the flow will follow here. All right? And you can add not just two, but you can add more. Just in case daghan kaya kang mga decision making ay butang, you can add more, not just two. Okay? So there are no limits with the decision making. And then we have predefined process. So predefined process, it is going to be the same with this. However, predefined process, we will only use predefined process if the process contains kanang kinahanglan po siya og flowchart itself. So, for example, we can turn this kani going to norsu.edu.ph na siya iyang step na pagyapon, di ba? How do you go to norsu.edu.ph? So first you're going to open up your browser. Next is you're going to click the URL box, di ba? And then that's the time that you're going to type norsu.edu.ph. So if a particular process kanang gam-ani mo siya og laing nga flowchart, then you are going to use this. Okay? So, for example, if butahimo nato ni siya nga predefined process, if we will change the icon to something like this, kani, then that means we will have to create another flowchart that will instruct us, that will give us instruction how to go to norsu.edu.ph. Nagets ra? Mura ba kung ang process tagaan po nimo ang usa ka process just like this, you're going to add instruction on how to do that, then you are going to use predefined process. But we will only use predefined process if we are ready to create another flowchart for this. Okay? Nagets ra?
Gets ra, sir.
All right. I'm not sure
Yes,
if
sir.
I'm
Yes,
doing the
sir.
job really well, but please bear with me. Okay, next is we have a perfect circle.
Sir.
So don't be confused. Sir, pareha man siyang circle. Now, the first one is ellipsis, which is a perfect circle. Right here is a perfect circle. So that means it's a connector used to show a jump from one point in the process flow to another. So usually this will be used if ever nagama kag flowchart and nadili na maigo sa papel. So you will have to end the first page with with a connector, and then on the second page you're going to start with a connector. Okay? So for example, kani nga flowchart and kani same ra ko na siya sumpay. So since nahutdan akong page, so instead of I'm going to use kani nga ellipsis, pretend dili pa ko na siya end, ganahan ra ko yung sumpay, di ba? So I'm going to end it with a perfect circle here, and let me call it, for example, letter A. And then here, I'm going to start with a circle here and has letter A in it. Mura ba galink ra siya ba? Maglink. Alright? So that is a connector. And then lastly, we have flow lines and arrows indicates the flow of the process. So just like this, we know that this would come first before this. It's because I arrow, di ba? So kabalutag asa ang pasunod niya, it's because of the arrow. So actually these dili ra kani ang mga symbols in flowcharts. However, these are the symbols that are most commonly used, especially for us in programming. But if we're going to deal with actual software development, napay daghan nga mga symbols. We're not going to discuss all of those because we're not going to be necessarily have to use it in programming one pa man. But anyway, it will be discussed to you soon once you get to your maybe second year or third year. It will be discussed to you all these symbols for flowcharts because you're going to use flowcharts a lot na. Okay? So,
Abi dyan ako, sir, ang flowchart kay pwede rag kuan tanan square tanan rectangle. Naday na sila nana di ay.
mana sila ay mga each symbol has its own meaning depending on its purpose. So I think makita tag mga flowchart, for example, if we're going to visit any government offices like health centers, hospitals, if inigsulod niyo sa information, makita mo mga inanin ay mga rectangle. So at least right now, if you're going to see it, if makabantay mo next time, kabalo naman sa iyahang proper meaning. Okay? And the last akong sure ko nga naa is kaning sa water district diri sa Bais. Inigsulod nimo sa waiting na aditoy process on how to pay your bill na ana. And here in NORSU Bais, if you visit from NORSU Bais, na po flow chart there is a cashier system. There is a cashier na how to pay your tuition pero wala naman tuition karon. So anyway, let's try to create. Okay? Let's try to create a flowchart. And this time, we're not gonna be doing a flowchart for a program because wala pa man ta nag-start of programming. We're just going to create a flowchart for any activity. Alright? Would that be okay?
Okay, sir.
Okay. Because this would be your activity man po. Anyway. Alright. So, it says here, basically in creating flowchart, you can use any medium. Let's say you can draw it on a piece of paper, all right, or whatever it is. However, there is an application online if you're using computers. There's an application
Pwede
online.
application lang sir ang
Um,
paghimog flowchart.
no. Okay. To do so, you can go to app.diagrams.net, or there are any other website that offers the same thing. But for me, this is one of the best nga kuan nga website for creating flowcharts. So this is what we're going to use today. So to open it up, so we have apps.diagrams.net. So you can either create a new diagram. Just select save to device para dili na kakinahanglan mo login, and then create new diagram. Okay, so let's create new diagram and then select flowchart. There will be lots of options right here. You just have to select flowchart. Okay, so nakanindot ani nga diagrams is we just have to click and drag. All right, so next is you're going to save it somewhere on your computer. So let me save it right here. Actually, na nakoy ginama. Let me open it. Let me just add flowchart 1. Okay, we're just going to remove this because we're going to start a new one. Okay lang ba ma-extend tagamay guys? O may klase ron? Okay. Again, medyo taas sa
Okay ra sir.
taas sa atong klase, but if you can remember on your load slip, atong class is supposed to be daily. However, we're not gonna be doing that. It's because, kalas kay internet. So, if ato na lang tiwason, bahalag taas, tiwason nato para di na to magbalik-balik. All right, so we'll try to create a flowchart. So, can you think of any activity na atong gamit na flowchart? Can you think of an activity? Okay. So, kuan, let's try. All right, how to cook how to cook rice using rice cooker. Ana lang.
Sige sir.
Agree ba tayo? Okay, so
Para
I'm sure.
dili pa man sir baka nanti pa.
All right, so katong mga dili kabalo, at least makabalo na mo, di ba? Because again, this is gonna be a step-by-step procedure, man. So, since sa yun naman kayo siya, maybe all of us, siguro kabalo siguro mo luto o canton using rice cooker. So, I guess everybody will be able to help me with this one. So, what would be the first step? So, siguro nga itong buhaton una.
Gosanda ng concert.
Ay, let's talk about the flowchart siya. Sa flowchart.
Wow, ano ba speaker sir?
Sir,
Magtakos
Ano, sir?
sa ka sir.
wash the rice cooker, sir.
Remember,
Binag sir
Okay.
libog ko sir.
bitaw, galibog jud ko dyan. Unsay unang step para mo create a flowchart?
Start.
Okay, start.
Start,
And
sir.
which symbol were you going to use?
Palalagyan.
Ellipsis,
Ellipsis.
Ellipsis
Okay. Alright, so the ellipsis is right here. You just have to click that. Alright, and then let me move it somewhere right here. Okay. Alright, so let's add it. How to cook rice using rice cooker. Okay. I-mute sa tika, Ivan, ha? Okay, medyo static imuhang.
Sir.
Static ang imuhang microphone, I think. All right, so the next step is
Arrow,
step.
Input, sir.
Input.
Arrow sir.
Ano input?
Arrow sir.
Sige lang. Ato rin pala yung arrows. Let's focus on the steps. So, unsay sunod? Unsay pinakauna natong buhaton?
Process.
Sige, banjaw.
Klase na kayo.
Binagsulat
Joke,
na
sir.
kayo.
Dito ako tigloto.
Dito. Si balsamo na lang.
Sir. Ay, ayaw na lang.
Sige, ikaw, Sebes.
Pansira na sila sir.
Okay.
Wash the rice cooker, sir.
Wash the rice cooker. Okay. Sige. So, unsang nga symbol itong gamiton?
Process.
Rectangle.
Rectangle is because it is an instruction, di ba? It is an instruction to be carried out. Alright, so we'll add a rectangle here and then wash the rice cooker. Alright? So, para ma-connect nato ning duha ka symbol, all we need to do is click the first one, and then, as you can see, na arrow nga mogawas. Click the arrow, it will automatically connect itself. Oops. Ana. Okay? So, next. Unsay sunod nga buhaton? Anyone?
Sir, ako sir.
Sige, go ahead.
Add 4 cups, sir.
Sige, go ahead.
Add 4 cups of rice.
Okay, 4 cups. Sige, kuan man, unsa lang nga
Di
symbol
ba na
kang
kaigo nato, sir? Kanang 4 cups?
10 cups.
Sige, kanang kuan lang, sige kato. Let's go with 4 cups lang. Sige, go ahead. Unsa lang nga symbol kang gamiton?
Para liligrap.
Rectangle gyapon, sir, kay process man.
Process man siya, di ba? Okay. So, we're going to use rectangle because it is still an instruction. Alright? The reason why, maybe you're confused, ngano dili parallelogram, sir? We're adding something to it. Let's just say that we are not talking about data, di ba? We're only going to use a parallelogram if we're going to add data. Let's say personal information, contact information, so on and so forth. So we will use rectangle, and let's say add 4 cups of rice. Okay? Or let's just say ana lang. Add 4 cups of rice. Ano sa sunod nga step?
Kuan sir, hugasan sir. Wash the rice.
Okay, wash the rice. So we will going to use another rectangle, di ba?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then so ito ana, rinse ba na siya? Dili, wash.
Rinse, sir, rinse.
Rinse
Rinse,
the rice properly.
The rice.
With water.
With water. Kana basig butang niya alcohol niya ibutang nila. Okay. All right, and the next is the sunod, anyone? Makita
Plug
ng
the rice
tubig, sir.
cooker, sir. Plug the rice cooker.
Nyo, gihugasan pa man nato.
Add water.
Wait,
Add water, okay? So,
Or by
Kunang water, sir. Tungakan
One
na
Cups of water. Add 4 cups of water, sir.
di ba 1:2 man na siya? 1:2. So, for example, 1 cup of rice is 2 cups of water, di ba? Mo man na?
ayaw na
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So, since we added 4, so we will add 4. No, we will add 8.
5 cups of water.
8. Kay 1:2.
4 and 1 half, sir.
Cup
Halarong dahil ako, sir.
of water. Diba kay 1:2 man na siya? 1:2 mo guna. Let's just say 1:2.
Wrong dahil ako, sir. Lain na.
Ana, so add 8 cups of water. So, para po makasabot ang imong what if pitan ang imong tagaan ani nga flowchart is anyone nga dili jud ka balong muluto. So, alangan nga ganahan sila magluto og usara ka baso. Diya imong gibutang instruction diri is 4. So, we can either butang na lang tog instruction diri na 1 cup of rice is 2 cups of water. Ana na lang para if usara ka baso usara ka cup or rice iyang lutoon. Di siya kabalog pila ka pila nga sa kadaghan nga water, di ba? Lugaw. Alright, next. Sa sunod.
Plug the rice cooker na goro, sir.
Okay. Plug in the rice cooker to an electric outlet. Alright, sa sunod.
And,
Sir,
Sorry. Down
wait,
to
15 minutes.
Okay, so switch it to iba naman na siya yung knob. Naman siya yung switch to cook. Ana. Switch the rice cooker. Okay, so ato na siyang gi-switch to cook. Then next after that, unsa lan?
Mag-wait ka, sir.
Wait
Of
to
no
10 minutes. 15
Wait.
minutes.
Sir.
Actually, dili na siya
Mag-wait ka, sir.
dili na siya
30
sa 5
minutes,
minutes,
sir.
di ba?
30 minutes.
I don't think
30 minutes.
dili na guy. Hulaton na to.
Automatic naman.
Gani. Wa man ay proper na
Matik
time.
ready.
Ma-warm, sir.
So it's warm. So
Mag-wait
wait
lang ka na ma-warm.
until
Wait until
Ay,
warm.
lahi
the
matanda,
cooker
sir.
Warm.
switches
Cook. To
to
warm.
warm. Ana, muna saktong buhaton is to wait because pitan 10 minutes na
Sakto.
yung pa di ay naluto. Alright, so wait until the cooker switches to warm. So what if kuan? What if wala pa? Wala pa na warm sa buhaton? Hulat, di ba? So
Mag-wait.
so
Yes.
nana tayo decision making. Nana, so we will introduce decision making. So we will use diamond and then we will say is it switched to warm? Okay? 'Di ba? Na decision making. So
Yes, sir.
all right, so we will use diamond because we are going to let the flow um of the flow chart depend on whether or not it has been switched or been switched to warm or not yet. So yes, then if it's yes, then turn it off, 'di ba?
Yes, sir.
Turn the cooker off. And then lastly, end. So we will
Unplug, sir.
Yes, sir.
Unplug.
ah buta na to.
Unplug pa gani, sir.
Unplug pa, sir.
And
Unplug pa,
unplug.
sir.
Ano na lang, part na lang na siya sa turn off na lang.
Ay, sige na
Okay.
lang.
Yeah,
Then
okay na,
yung
sir.
sunod, end. Alright,
And
diba? Okay.
Yes.
However, remember nga naatay decision making here. So what if wala pa siya na switch to warm? What are we going to do?
Wait.
Alright, so we will
Luto gudan, sir.
mubalik mubalik ta, there is a loop, meaning loop mubalik ta sa previous nga process. So we will introduce a loop
Okay,
here.
nalimot.
Diba? So is it switched to warm? If no, then wait until the cooker switches to warm. Ano ba? Nagets na nyo? Na siya loop.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so unsay kulang na lang ani. We will add a text for our decision making. So if it's yes, then butang nato diya, yes. However, if it's no, we will write no. Okay? Alright, so we've just created our very first flowchart, how to cook rice using rice cooker. So if we're going to give this to anyone who cannot cook, if dili maka luto og kanon using rice cooker, then I don't think nga dili nila makaya ni. It's because we've already given them the step-by-step procedure. And this time you're using flowchart or symbols to represent each step. Okay? So that is flowchart. Do you have any questions so far with flowchart?
No,
No,
sir.
sir.
Wala na, sir.
That's good. All right, so let's proceed. Okay, so basically, as part of your assignment, you'll be creating a flowchart. I'll inform you later on sa assignment. So you can either use this website, or if wala ay internet or hinayin yung internet sa inyo, you can just draw it on a piece of paper. Okay, next, algorithm.
Sir, oh my God.
Similar to flowcharts, an algorithm is a procedure for problem solving by executing a sequence of steps taken. Unlike the flowchart, however, the algorithm does not use symbols or any pictorial representation. Instead, the processes are written in lists. Okay, so similar lang daw sila sa flowchart, but instead of using symbols, the processes are written in lists. And I'm pretty sure you're already familiar with this because I've given this an example in our very first meeting. So here, so calculate the sum of two numbers. So in our flowchart, we have the step-by-step procedure represented with a symbol. But in algorithm, you're going to write the steps by lists, diba? Diba? So we have step 1, start, same thing here. Step 2, enter the first number, so same right here. Step 3, enter the second number, same thing. Step 4, calculate the sum as num1 plus num2, same thing gyapon are. And then display the result, and then end. Alright, so dali ra siya kaayo because instead of drawing it on a symbol, you're just going to write it in list. However, this time you're going to write it in an actual sentence, something that kana masabta na siya. Because kuan man. For example, dere input. We if you know about flowchart, you know that the parallelogram means input. So you're going to make sure nga imo siyang gimension sa dere nga you are going to enter or input, right? So here, enter the first number and then calculate the sum as so on and so forth. And then we have here the algorithm for finding the profit or loss by comparing the income and loss. So our flowchart a while ago, and this is its algorithm. So same thing. Start. Step 1, start. Step 2, enter the income. Step 3, enter the cost. And then step 4, compare the value of income and cost. And then is income greater than cost? Kana? That's the decision making. And then if yes, calculate profit as income, just like this. Else, meaning if no, calculate loss as in cost minus income. All right. And then step 6, display results for income or loss, just like this. And then step 7, the end. All right. So that is the algorithm. And then here, so this is the flow chart on how to enroll in NORSU Bais using NORSU Google Form, and this would be the algorithm. So first, step 1, go to norsu.edu.ph, so on and so forth. So I don't think I have to explain it, diba? Because it's going to be the same thing. However, you're not gonna be using symbols, but instead you're going to write it as a list. Sabtanan ba na?
Sabtan, sir.
Yes,
Ano
sir.
man? All right. So,
Galuya.
anong galoy man? Kape na?
Yes, sir.
Of life ang utak, sir.
Dali naman guni, dali naman di ba?
Yes,
Again,
sir.
we're not focusing on actual programming just yet. We're just going to focus for now on because we are still on the introduction pa man ta sa in programming. We are trying to relate our daily lives sa programming. So, on your future activities, when you're going to create flowchart and algorithm, you're going to focus more on the daily activities lang sa. All right? So that is the second phase, which is planning the solution. All right. The next phase in the program development lifecycle is coding the program. And again, we're not going to focus more of these. Focus lang ta sa kato ikaduha nga phase a while ago. And then again, we have coding the program. The next stage is to transfer the solution to the problem in the computer program. You will interpret the logic from the prepared flowchart or pseudocode into actual programming codes based on which programming language you are going to use. Okay, so di ba, ang first stage is to understand what is the problem and what would be the solution. Di ba? That's the first stage. The second stage is to prepare or to plan your solution. I-plan mo unsa mo paggama ang program that will solve the problem. And then the third stage is coding the program. That means you're going to translate it to an actual um, computer program. So in this stage, you are going to write the codes. Imo na siyang i-translate from your flowchart and algorithm to computer programming language, di ba? And in our course, we'll be using C++, right? So there's nothing to be guan, there's nothing to be confused with the coding program because wala pa man, di pa man ta kabalong mo code. But in this stage, you are going to transfer all your findings from your flowchart and your algorithm. You're going to translate it into an actual working program. So dire na ka mag-code na stage. Coding the program operates grammatically somewhat like in English language. There are sets of rules called syntax, di ba? So if English language have grammar, computer programming languages have syntax. It determines if the program will work and how is it going to work. Although each programming language has different syntaxes from one another, the concept of implementation is usually similar. Therefore, learning multiple programming languages is not going to be very complicated. So it is true. Although each program, di ba, daghan tang mga programming languages as discussed in our first lesson. Although there are lots of programming languages around, but they have similar na approach. Murabag same sa atong language as human, na ay Bisaya, na ay Tagalog, na ay English, di ba? But we only differ on how we are going to speak it. But same ra gyapon ang thought, di ba? It's the same with computer programming languages, there are lots of programming languages, but this implementation is going to be the same. So that means it's not very difficult for us to learn multiple programming languages. So to code a program, here are some of the tools that we'll be needing to write a program. First is we'll be needing a text editor and an integrated development environment or IDE and a compiler. Okay? So na-install na ba ninyo to akong gipa-install ninyo?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Wala
Yes,
pa,
sir.
Alright, please install it, di
Wala pa
ba?
ko, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, install on nyo to. So basically, what I ask you to install is for
Itong,
katong CXX
kwan,
Droid and Dev C++. So those are example of integrated development environment. So when you say integrated development environment, these are the program that will allow us to create a program. Okay, so let's start with the first one, text editor. Since programming codes are just text, you need software that will allow you to write the codes. The Notepad is a standard tool used in the industry, but there are more advanced options like Notepad++ or Sublime Text. So again, since program are just lines of codes, diba? And we know that codes are just text. So that's why to create a program, we will be needing text editors. Notepad++ will work fine. The Integrated Development Environment, or IDE, is a software application that offers extensive implements for software development. This is a more efficient way of writing programs because it offers more features and control program. So, although we can use text editors to write program, we can always use integrated development environment. So, integrated development environment is like a text editor pero mas na siya control. So mura siya, instead of we're going to use text editors, we're just going to use integrated development environment because they already have a text editor in it. And then we have a compiler. Compiler is a program that converts the syntax into a machine code so they can be read and executed by the computer. Most IDEs already have built-in compiler, so there is no need to install another one. However, if you're using text editors, you need to save your file and run it on a separate compiler for it to work. Okay? So basically, the integrated development environment, kato akong gipa-install ninyo, na siya yung kaugalingon nga text editor and compiler. So why do we need compiler? Because again, codes, di ba? Text, they are text. And our computers need help in translating those texts, those codes into an actual working program. And that is where the compiler comes in. Ang trabaho sa compiler is iyang i-translate itong mga codes into an actual program. Alright? However, dili na ta kinahanglan mo install aning text editor and compiler because katong akong gipa-install ninyo, they already have a text editor and compiler built in. Katong CXX Droid and Dev C++. Alright, and then we have testing the program. Testing the program means to evaluate its accuracy. It usually involves these phases: test checking, translating, and debugging. So basically, after you've already created your program, the next step is to test it whether or not it is working. Okay, so the first way of checking or testing is called test checking. It is an informal manual test that allows programmers to spot errors that may keep the program from working correctly. So kumbaga, after ka ni code, after nimo gi-write ang code, imo ra siyang reviewon. Imo ra siyang tan-awon, mata-matahon nimo muna test checking. Imo rang reviewon using your eyes to see whether or not you can spot any errors. Okay? And then translating, it is a programming language processor that verifies the proper use of the programming language by showing all the syntax error alerts called diagnostics. So translating, we no longer have to worry about this kind of translating and debugging. Debugging is a term utilized widely in programming. Debugging implies recognizing, finding, and fixing bugs mostly by executing the program. The IDE nga kung gihatag ninyo will automatically translate and debug your program before it will run itself, before it will be executed. So we don't necessarily have to worry about this because katong IDE, it will already test the program for us. Okay, and this would be the last. I know, ganana po kung mahuman na po na I know, kamupod. So, last na ni siya, documenting the program. So, kinsa ninyo nakatry na og research paper back in your senior high?
Kami,
Yes,
sir.
Sir.
Tanan. Okay,
Yes,
so
sir.
sir.
sa expecting
May
tanan.
tanong sir
So
kay natagi na yun.
okay. So basically documenting the program is like your research paper. So you're going to document a written detailed report of the programming phases and specific information about the program. This includes the source and nature of the problem, a narrative description of the program, planning
Sir.
tools like flowcharts and pseudocodes, and testing results. So it's like a research paper. So whatever it is that you did in your research paper, it's going to be the same in
Alos
documenting the
tanan anak sir.
program. Mhm. You're going to include a narrative description of the program, but this time you're going to add your flowchart, your algorithm, and your codes, and then the testing results. All right. And in BS in Information Technology and Computer Science, it's no longer called research paper; it is called capstone project. All right. So sa business na sila ay feasibility study, sa uban nga mga courses they use thesis, and in BS Information Technology or Computer Science, it is called capstone project. All right, so you'll get to that whenever kung ma fourth year na mo prior to your graduation. All right, so that will be all for today. Do you have any questions? Finally, humana jud.
No, sir.
No, sir.
No, sir. Wala na, sir. Kay klase na po mag 6:30.
Oh, klase mo mag 6:30
Flow chart sir.
All right. Anyway, sa'yo pa nga kung link ng butang dire, so please don't mind this. I'm going to send you the link for your assessment. And
Kasi mag 6:30 Filipino.
okay, and then sa inyong assignment, I'm going to post it. So basically, you're going to create a flowchart and algorithm for any activity. So any daily activity, all right?
Hindi mo na sila, sir, like, kanang sa flowchart.
Oh.
Marag usara ka kuan. Usara ka topic. Or
Dili,
unsa man?
magpili mo. Anyway, I'm going to upload the complete instruction later on.
Okay, sir.
So basically, pili mo kanang favorite niyo yung buhaton. Let's say ganahan ko nga ko unsaon pag-upload og video sa TikTok, unsaon pag-upload og video sa YouTube. Inana ba? Right? So
Sir,
any
ayan,
activities.
sir. Kaya dili kami tanan TikToker.
O gani, so kamo ray bahala. Kamo ray bahala unsa inyong ganahan.
YouTuber lang ko sir.
Okay, so how to watch video, how to download a video. Inana, right?
Sir, what is usala among topic for that?
Ha? Sorry, Miss
Kana
Baldosa.
sa ang deadline sir.
Tesa, na question si Miss
Sir kana
Baldosa. Alright.
How to
Okay, so okay, the deadline
how
since
to cross back, sir, pwede.
how to unsa? How to unsa gani?
How to crash back.
Crash back.
Hey, sir!
You just have to be just be yourself and then bahala na sila ganahan mo sila ni more dili. Alright. Anyway, the deadline would be di ba atong klase usually is Monday. So deadline would be Monday. Okay? And then I'm going to I'm going to upload the details later on. And then ano lang. And then I'm also going to send you the link for the assessment. Okay, the deadline would be Monday gyapon 4 p.m. for the assessment. And for assignment it would be 12 p.m. midnight. Alright, so do you have any questions, guys, before we end?
No,
No,
sir.
sir.
Please turn on your camera.
No, sir.
One and
Wala,
a half
sir.
hours, isa.
Kaibo gamay, sir, pero okay ra dagay ito.
Again, ug namoy question, please send it on our GC para makabalutanan and mansira na to. Please turn on your cameras, guys, please.
Ka negra, imuhang kuan, imuhang
Ready, ready.
lang ha.
Sige, ready? 3, 2, 1, smile. Okay, alright, thank you so much, guys. Amping mo, I'll see you on our next lesson.
Bye, sir.
Bye.
Bye, sir.
Annyeong.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
Excuse me.
No, yes.
Kanang, sir, Sister Norman, ano rin NORSU?
Ansa? Si?
Sister Norman.
Ano man? Nahuman na ako na-end na sila. Nang hang up na mga ng klase. Any question about me, Sir Norman? Ansa lang? Say question.
Ay, wala ka, sir. Wala ka na.
Tango-tangan mo is naara ko sa NORSU kay atong una ni check ko ni ana man siya nga another kay lakaw.
Kuan si work from home sila. Actually, work from home mi tanan. Work from home din. Usahay mo gani anira ko dress pa sa eskwelahan kay mas kusog man connection diri.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Okay, bye-bye guys. I'll see you in our next
Bye-bye, sir.
lesson.
Bye-bye, class. Bye-bye, klase.
Sir, bye-bye, sir.
Bye-bye.
Let's go!
Sir, start providing.
Uy, kinsa day ko na tingalan atong ko.